Hello, my chicklets. Thank you for stopping by. I do apologize if the audio is a little off on this one. I seem to be just a little bit sick. Don't worry, it is just a head cold, and hopefully I should be doing better fairly soon, although I am pre-recording a couple of videos because I will be gone over the next week. Either way, I do hope you enjoy this story. It will be on the sadder side. Make sure to check that description for content warnings, but let me read you the heartbreaking. Words are an amazing thing. The right words can take someone's dark skies and clouds of gray and turn them into sunny days and rainbows. Patton was no stranger to this, which was why he tried so hard to do and say the right thing. He knew his words didn't always come out the right way. He didn't always think his words through, instead allowing his emotions to direct them. That was why, for so long, he took his punishment silently. Wrapping the bandages around his midsection carefully, Patton thought about whether or not it was time to finally ask for help. Words were an amazing thing, but they could be terrible too. Words could hurt. Words could destroy. And Patton had known for some time that the words other people said to Thomas affected him. It was probably in middle school when he'd first realized it. Teenagers could be so cruel, but it didn't become a real problem until the days of Vine. Comments began flowing in about Thomas's vines. Most of them were wonderful and filled Patton with a euphoric happiness, but some of them, only a few every now and then, were awful. Patton did his best to brush them off, knowing that a few mean comments here and there were bound to happen, but things changed. The first time someone had negative comments about the dad character, a character Patton had poured his heart and soul into, he was hopelessly crushed. The effect was nearly instantaneous as a deep cut appeared along his arm. Thankfully, it had been winter, and it was easy to hide it. Patton didn't want to tell the others at first. It was only a few cuts here and a few cuts there. He knew his kiddos didn't mean it. They were just having a hard time and looking for some kind of outlet for their frustrations. Patton knew not everyone in the world was kind, but he wanted to believe the best in people. He wanted to believe that those people didn't know the real damage their words were causing. So he smiled through it. He hid it from the others. Things had been hard back then. Virgil and Roman were constantly fighting with each other. Logan was trying to logic a way through their bickering. It would only have added more stress. Even when they accepted Virgil, when he and Roman stopped fighting on a daily basis, it had become a habit. But maybe it was time to ask for help. Patton pulled down his shirt and didn't try to force a smile. The wounds were getting worse. Ever since their first time on screen as themselves, by being out in the open, Patton had made himself vulnerable. Each word, each comment said hatefully towards him specifically, cut deep. He had almost told all of them after moving on. After opening up about his less than awesome feelings, he had almost told all of them what he had been going through. He couldn't open up to them further, not with the way Virgil and Roman had looked after the whole affair. He wanted to tell them, but even if they knew, what could they do to fix it? He could tell Logan. Logan would find a logical way to handle the situation. Patton straightened the cardigan on his shoulders, walking slowly down the stairs, holding tight to the railing. Each step hurt, and he couldn't shift his body in a way that made it less painful. Somehow, he made it to the bottom of the stairs, but the commons were silent. Where was everyone? He was normally the first one awake, but he had taken a while to bandage himself. Wasn't Logan normally awake by this time? "Logan? Virgil?" he called out. Roman was normally still in his room getting ready, so he didn't expect him to be up and about yet. "We've been over this before. These things need to be taken care of before we can continue with the other activities Thomas wishes to participate in." "Don't get snippy with me, Elle. I wanted to work on these yesterday, but you insisted that Thomas needed to take care of other things to be productive and healthy, and I stand by that." Both of them made their way downstairs, still arguing about the schedule for the day. "Hey, Logan," Patton called out, not wanting to disrupt him, but he needed to talk to someone about this. He didn't want to deal with this alone anymore. "Not now, Patton. Today's proving to be a busy day, and Virgil and I must work this out before Thomas wakes up." "Sorry, Pop." Virgil's face softened a bit. "We'll make time for whatever it is later, okay?" How could he say no to that? His dark, strange son was being so soft for him, and Logan did understand the importance of a tidy kept schedule. "It's okay. We can talk about it when you're done." Virgil nodded, giving Patton a pat on the back before sinking into the real world with Logan. When the two of them were gone, Patton's hand went gently to his side, and he winced in pain as fingers curled around the wound. He was in too much pain to be hungry, so instead of walking to the kitchen, he made his way to the couch. Pain meds did nothing for this kind of pain. Somewhere in himself, Patton knew that although he was physically affected, the pain was all emotional. That was what he was, after all. The heart. Thomas's emotions. He slowly lowered his body into the couch, trying not to move too much. He could just sit here and wait. "I smell blood." Patton jumped and winced in pain, tears prickling at the corner of his eyes. He had just gotten comfortable, and here Remus was disrupting that. He really was not the person Patton wanted to talk to right now. "Go away, Remus." "Can I touch it? I want to push my finger in and see how deep it goes." Patton flinched. The thought made his empty stomach turn. How much worse would that make it, having Remus dig and prod at the wound? If he had had anything in his stomach, it would be fighting to come back up. Yet, as he went to tell Remus off, the comments replayed in his mind. Had he truly been too cruel to Deceit and Remus? Was he starting to paint himself as the villain in their story? "Do what you want." His voice was weak and tired. "Patton, what do you think you're doing?" How had he managed to get both of them to find him? It wasn't as if the Mind Palace was restricted, especially now that Thomas was trying to be more honest with himself, but normally Remus and Deceit stayed in their own rooms. Patton chose not to answer, but he felt Remus trying to lift up his shirt before Deceit pulled him away. "Seriously, letting this goblin touch you without restriction?" he tisked, sitting down on the coffee table to look at Patton. "You look absolutely wonderful," he said, rolling his eyes. "What happened?" For a while, Patton was silent, but Deceit was a patient man. The real trick was getting Remus to stay quiet. He must have known some trick, though, because he whispered something in the trash man's ear and he pranced off, looking like a lopsided gazelle. "Am I cruel?" Patton's voice broke as he asked the question, tears slipping down his face. "I am morality. I'm supposed to do the right thing. That means being kind to everyone, even my enemies, but we aren't even enemies." His eyes were misted with tears. "We're both trying to protect Thomas, right? I know that, but you wanted him to lie, and Remus is just... And I just want him to be a good person, but I'm hurting him. It wasn't my intention to hurt Thomas. I'm just trying to make sure he is a good person." Deceit winced as he watched Patton break down, adjusting his hat before he gently put his hand on Patton's leg. "Does it look like Remus or I are affected by your words?" No, he sniffled. "But," Deceit held up his hand, "is Remus the type to hide his feelings about anything?" No. You said yourself that my sole purpose is self-preservation. Would I be helping someone who I deemed to be a cruel person? I guess not. So that matter is settled. Now what happened? The emotional trait looked at Deceit, trying to decide what he was going to do. Deceit was not the person he intended to tell about this first, yet here he was. Logan was gone, deciding that taking care of the mundanities of the day was more important than listening to Patton. No, that wasn't fair to Logan. He was just trying to do what he thought was right for Thomas. Still, Patton hated dealing with this alone. He felt so isolated. Slowly, he began to lift up his shirt, showing off the poorly bandaged wound. It was already beginning to bleed through the wrappings. "It's never been this bad before." His lip quivered with pain as he tried to move to give Deceit a better view. "What has been causing this?" "The comments. I know I shouldn't let them get to me. I should have thick skin, but as Roman would say, you are the kindest little puffball." Patton's eyes began to water again. "And if I let it hurt me..." "It won't hurt Thomas." Once again, Patton nodded, but before Deceit could continue his questioning, Roman came thundering down the stairs, sword at the ready. "Do, what's wrong?" He looked over the couch at Deceit, but when he saw Patton sitting there, his face fell into confusion. "Padre, is everything okay?" Patton turned and gave Roman a weak smile, the tear tracks still prominent down his face. "Of course, kiddo. I'm your happy Pappy Patton." His smile faltered as he looked down at Deceit, who was squeezing his leg. He was lying. He was hiding from his friends again. He wanted to pretend he was okay, that he wasn't hurt by all of this. Sorry. No, I'm not." A few more tears slid down his face. Roman was quick to walk to his side, looking at Patton's lifted shirt and the poorly patched wound. "Have you been fighting dragon witches?" With a wave of his hand, Roman turned his sword into a medical kit, putting a hand on Deceit's shoulder before taking a seat where Dee was once sitting. The tears continued to fall down Patton's face as Roman's voice became soft. "It's okay, Patton. I'm here. We are here. Do you want to tell us what happened?" "It wasn't supposed to get this bad. Normally it's small little cuts. I was going to tell you all, but everyone was always so busy." "We are never too busy to help you." Roman seemed so sure of that, but Deceit and Patton both knew sometimes it was a matter of pushing your emotions aside to focus on what needed to be done. Sometimes Patton didn't have a place in the conversation. Still, he smiled weakly at Roman's reassurance, allowing the princely trait to strip him of his shirt and start tending the wound. "I'll try to remember that." "That still doesn't explain how." Patton bit his lip. He wasn't really sure if he was ready to talk about it, but he needed to. He'd been hiding it for so long. "It's all of the words that hurt Thomas. They hurt me." He knew he shouldn't have said anything. Roman froze like a statue, the medical gauze in his hand. "How long?" "What?" "How long have you been getting hurt from these words?" Deceit had moved to sit next to Patton, wrapping an arm around him, rubbing his shoulder gently and carefully. "Since middle school?" "Patton, that's longer than it took for Prince Eric to realize who his true love was." He was trying not to let the anger rise in him as he knew that wouldn't be helpful to Patton. "I know." Patton's voice came out as a strained whisper. "But things were always so busy." He didn't want to tell Roman that some of the wounds had never really healed. They weren't open, but Patton was still tender in those spots. The pain still lingered when he was reminded. "It'll be okay, Patton. We're here to take care of you now." Deceit ran a hand through Patton's hair, and normally the fatherly trait would not accept such condolences from Deceit, but he needed this. He closed his eyes slowly as Roman continued to patch him up, listening to Deceit's sweet whispers. Just having talked about what was going on, finally telling someone, confessing that he was hurting, it helped. Patton thought maybe it was whatever Roman was putting on his side, but Roman could see the wound was already beginning to heal. They had a lot to talk about, but as Deceit whispered sweet reassurances and Roman reminded Patton of how loved he was, the broken heart began to fall asleep slowly, his eyes too heavy to keep open. Heartbreak was exhausting. Patton curled up against Deceit, allowing the sweet lies and reassurances to lull him to sleep. He could tell Logan and Virgil when they got back, but for now, he was going to rest and take the time he needed to take care of himself. Thank you all for listening. Again, this was heartbreaking. I do hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful day.